Catch my show, The Smart Show, every Tuesday from 8 p.m. Central Standard Time to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. On my show, you'll be able to hear deep dive narrations of current issues in the secular and church world, as well as live music. Tune in Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time in the Green Stream. You won't be disappointed.
On FishbowlRadioNetwork.com. Jump in.
Hey, how's everyone doing tonight? I want to get a shout out to all of my Fishbowl Radio Network listeners. I'm glad that you decided to join me tonight in this hour of inspiration. You are listening to The Smart Show hosted by Pastor Nate on the Fishbowl Radio Network. Now, this is a place where we come together to reason, and I'm here every Tuesday from 8 p.m. Central Standard Time to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Now, this is a show where we critically dissect topics and just to get to the truth of the matter. Now, tonight we'll be talking about Ain't Nobody Got Time for That. Yes, that's right. Have you ever spoken with someone and they came to you with maybe some gossip or with some foolishness, and you'll say, girl, I ain't got time for that, or boy, ain't nobody got time for that. So we're going to talk about that tonight. And what does that really mean when someone says that? What does that mean when they say no one's got, we don't have time for that? So again, you're listening to The Smart Show at the Fishbowl Radio Network. Now, before we dive into the topic, I like to ask all my Fishbowl Radio Network listeners to share the link, the www.fbrn.us link with others. Let them know that we are live now. You can share that link. And then we are trying YouTube live for the first time. So go ahead to the and share that link with others. The broadcast will, be uploaded on YouTube. Actually, it's on YouTube right now. So hopefully you enjoy. Yes, and we are back on The Smart Show at the Fishbowl Radio Network in the Green Stream, discussing Ain't Nobody Got Time for That. Now, this topic was inspired because, as I look around, I see various ones just wasting their time hating and just doing all types of things that's not productive. And I just want to challenge you today. What are you doing with your time? And as we hear people say that time is short, and that is true because, we're not here to stay. But we're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to see how you're managing your time, how you're stewarding your time, the time that God has given us here on this earth. What are you doing? Now, there are two most important times or dates in our lives, and that's your birthday and that's your date of death. And all the time in between, I want to challenge you. What are you doing with that time? Come on, let's get into it. Now, time, if we look at the definition, it declares that it's an indefinite continued progress of existence, continuum that is measured in terms of events which succeed one another from past through present to the future, which means that it's constantly moving on. Time doesn't stop. It doesn't wait on no man. I just want to lay a natural foundation of what time is, and then we'll get into the meat of it. Now, it waits on no man. So whatever you got to do, don't procrastinate or miss the opportunity, because you can't get that time back. Once time is gone, you cannot get that back. So keep that in mind. Now, time is what we use to measure our day-to-day activities and events. Okay, is what we use to manage our daily routine, and by creating guidelines and restrictions on what we have to do. For example, you have a household. You have to get up 5:30 in the morning so everyone can eat breakfast and get ready for school and get ready for work. And then you take the kids to school or daycare. Then you have to be at work at 8 o'clock, right? You get off at 5. You go pick them up. You go do dinner. Help them with their homework. All these things have a time limit. They have to be in bed by 9. You wind down from 9 to 10, then you're in bed by 10 so you can get up the next morning to do it all over again. And maybe on the weekends, that's your time for recreation and having fun with the family. And on Sunday, if you're a faith-based family, you might attend church or, some type of religious event. Now, with that full schedule, with time being so consumed with that household, do you think that family has time for drama? I just want to ask that question. I want you to answer that. It's a rhetorical question. Do you think that family has time for foolishness? Do you think that family has time to waste? With all the activities I just listed, and everything being time driven, do you think they have time to waste? No. Now, um, it's an individual. If an individual has time to get into everyone else's business, they got too much time on their hand. Have you ever noticed that person that's just always involved in everything and everybody else's business? And, it's just like, where are you spending your time? They don't have really time. They got too much time on their hands. So we often use the cliche, an idle mind is the devil's workshop. I don't know why people say I'm bored, I'm busy. There's a whole lot of things to do in this world today than to sit down and just be bored. Now, we used to use this saying here, trying to be a smart aleck, saying, hey, we spend 6 months minding our own business and 6 months leaving everybody else's alone. If everybody had that mindset, then we'll be better off. I think we'll use our time a little more productive and a little more fruitful. Now, God has given us this time, and he's entrusting us to manage it wisely. Now, we don't really think about time in the aspect that I'm talking about. A lot of us take it for granted, which is why some of us, act the way we do. Time is a precious thing, and it is always moving. I often say, as soon as you are born, the clock starts ticking. So keep that in mind. As soon as you are born, the clock stops ticking. And you have to use it wisely. If not, it will slip away. Now, here's what Dr. Seuss says one day. He said, you spend all your life, focusing on the negative. You spend all your life creating drama. And then all these years go by and you look back and you say, how did it get so late so soon? And that's what the scriptures say. It's getting late in the evening. The sun is going down. And I'm not trying to be negative, and I'm not trying to, have a broadcast of gloom and doom, but I just want to enlighten you tonight, because a lot of people do not spend their time wisely. Now, one thing about time, it can work in our favor or it can work against us. It really doesn't discriminate, because it's going to do what it does regardless, right? Time is an unbiased thing. It's going to do what it does, which means it's going to keep going. It doesn't matter what you have going on. It doesn't matter what you have to do. When it's time, it's time. It doesn't wait on you. It waits on no man. So whatever you have to do, make sure it works on your, in your favor. And I give you some examples. We must manage it wisely and be a good steward of the time God gave us. In other words, this Latin phrase here, in many of us who went to school, you may have heard this here, carpe diem. That means seize the day. Make full use of the day with productive activities, right? Now, here's our scripture base for this broadcast today. It says, man that is born of a woman is of a few days and full of trouble. He cometh forth like a flower and is cut down. He fleeth also as a shadow and continueth not. Now that's Job 14:2. It says, man born of a woman is only of a few days. And I'll explain that before I get into some practical applications and current experiences. And for those of you who are just tuning in, just know that you're listening to The Smart Show, hosted by Pastor Nate on the Fishbowl Radio Network. And we're talking about ain't nobody got time for that. Yes, that's right. We don't have time for the foolishness. We don't have time for the drama. All right. Now, let's talk about that scripture where it says, man born of a woman is only a few days. Now, we're not here to stay. And I'm sorry to tell you, I wish I had some other news for you. Like I said, I'm not trying to sound sad and gloomy, but we're not here to stay. We're just passing through. As much as we don't want to talk about it, death is a reality, and it is part of the life cycle. I was looking at the census the other day, and there's some live numbers. We got over 7-point-something billion people in the world today, and there's some live numbers of showing, the people who are being born, and they also have some live numbers of people who are passing away, and that number is constantly going. From every second somebody's passing away. Now we got to be thankful that it's not us, that God gives us a day every day, and it's up to us to use that day wisely. So think about that. Yes. When that time comes, whatever you hadn't got done will not get done. Now, back in the day, we used to play a game called hide and seek, and we would count to I don't know, 10, 20, or whatever, and then we would say, ready or not, here I come. Right now, you have time to get it right. Right now, you have time to love. Right now, whatever wrong, you have time to right all your wrongs, right? Because one day it might be said too late. Now, that's true reality right there. And Jesus is coming back. He really is. And it's going to be like this here, ready or not, here I come. So while the blood is still running warm, while you still got breath in your body, make all your wrongs right. Don't wait for it, till it's too late. Get it right today. And I had to do that. I had to go back and reflect in my life, and I had to go back and forgive certain people. And I had to go back and say I'm sorry. I had to make everything right, just before I leave this world, because people are leaving here every day, and I want to make sure that I got my business straight. Can I get a witness out there? So take advantage of the time. Verse 2 says, it cometh forth like a flower and is cut down. Now you come into this world, we blossom and we do fruitful works, and you make the right decisions and the right things. You engage in humanity. You know how to create wealth. You just do all the right things. But you know what? There's going to come a time where that will come to an end. No matter what great works you do, and I encourage you to do good works, so when you do leave here, you can pass it down to your children, right? Or you can leave a legacy, or people can remember you by the good things that you've done. And I think that's commendable. When you leave here, can you leave a legacy of integrity? Can people say that was a good man, that was a good woman, he did this and he did that, he was a philanthropist, he was humanitarian? Can they say that about you? Or can they say, well, he always caused trouble, or I really didn't like him, or he didn't do anything good? I've gone to funerals where I had to even preach funerals, and I didn't really know the person, and there were times I knew the person, but the person really didn't do great work, so I had to really direct my message somewhere else, so I won't, because people are already grieving and things, and you don't want to say what you really feel at that time, because that's not really the time to say that. But I really couldn't think of anything good to say. And that's sad right there. So when I leave here, I want something to be left where people can remember the good things. Verse 2 says, it's coming forth like a flower and is cut down. And that's what this is talking about. You spring forth like a flower, you blossom, but you'll soon be cut down. We're here just passing through. So maximize your time. Take advantage of that time while you're here, because we're not here to stay. I think when I looked on the census and I saw the average lifespan, and it showed by country. Some of it's like 79. Some of the average is like, the age of 83, 84. I'm sure there are some outliers where people have lived 100 and over 100, but the average life expect, I would say, around 80 when I did the research. So, we start from birth, and those years, they go by fast. So take advantage of that time and do some great things while you're here. Help somebody along the way. You don't have to have a large platform to do that. You don't have to be known to do that. You can just do it on an individual basis. Just make sure you've done something every day, productive, something that's fruitful every day. So when you go to bed, you can feel good about what you've done. Now, there's a Shakespearean play by Macbeth, and it goes something like this. Here's an excerpt from it. It says, out, out, brief candle. Life is a walking shadow. A poor player that struts and frets is hours upon the stage and is remembered no more. It's just like a brief candle. You're here today, and then a few days later, you're gone. You do all this thing. You're on the stage. That's what he's saying. And then the light just goes out. Keep that in mind. And again, I'm not trying to discourage us, but I'm just trying to give you a reality check today, because many of us, I've experienced even family members, they go back and forth, they bicker and they hold grudges and they hate each other. We don't have time for that, right? That's the subject of our message. Ain't nobody got time for that. Time is short. We need to turn that energy around into loving. I don't care what the other person do, but you have to take the high road and take responsibility and realize, hey, look, we don't have time to really hate. We don't have time to sow seeds of hate. We don't have time to sow seeds of discord. We have this time here on this earth that God has given us, and I'm going to love. I'm going to sow peace. I'm going to do all I can for my brothers and my sisters, so when I'm gone, I will have done the work of the Lord. And that's something to be remembered. Oh my goodness, I know this is not a popular message here today. Now, Since we establish we're not here to stay, we need to really heed to what Solomon said. Now, in Ecclesiastes 12:1, Solomon says, remember now your creator in the days of your youth. So, in other words, while you're young, while you're strong, while you have all the active use of your limb, remember your creator. Remember God right now. Yeah, you can do it when you get old, but don't just wait till you get old to remember, or when you're not able, or when you're not able, when you're sick or whatever and broken down and can't do anything. Remember your creator right now while you're young and while he's giving you all your health and all your strength. And not only does that mean, I don't just only consider that age-wise, but that also means while it's day, while the opportunity is there. So it doesn't matter what age you are or how long you live, while you have breath in your body, you still have an opportunity to do good. Every day you wake up, it's an opportunity to do good. It's an opportunity to get it right. Whatever is wrong, that's an opportunity. And we need to look at every day as an opportunity to be productive. So he says, remember your creator in the days of thy youth, while you have your health and strength, while you can think, right? Remember him. And not only him, but remember somebody else. All right. So we talked about that today, and I hope this is encouraging you. You are listening to The Smart Show with Pastor Nate on the Fishbowl Radio Network, and we're talking about Ain't Nobody Got Time for That. Now, I'm going to talk about some scenarios here in a little bit, to try to hit home, because many people can relate. I always try to think of some examples that you can relate to. I don't want to just be so spiritual where it can't reach you, but I try to come up with some examples that you can identify with, because somebody might be going through what I'm talking about and they haven't really gained insight, and they hadn't really stopped to think, how am I managing my time? All these years I've been doing this. I need to change some things, right? I've been doing this the last 20 years and it really hadn't got me anywhere. Well, it's not too late. It's not too late. I don't care how old you are. I often say this here. Life ends, when it ends. As long as you got breath, you still have opportunity to do whatever you need to do. Now, you might not can play basketball at 90 years old, but you can certainly go to a basketball game. There are things you can do, to enjoy life. It just depends. So, I would encourage you to make full use of it and take advantage of it. Let's just say when you were younger and, you like someone and you maybe were afraid to walk up to them and say something, you missed that opportunity. They probably thinking the same thing. They probably just as afraid as you. We don't want to go through life missing opportunities saying, I should have, or I could have, if I did this, if I did that. You only got one life to live. Go ahead and take advantage. The worst thing that can be done is you can just get told no, right? So, but at least you've tried. And I say this, nothing beats a failure but a try. So try, take a chance. Don't be afraid. And this is not time to fear. And we're going to talk about some of these things. Many of us are living in fear because of some past experiences. We talked about a damaged heart on last week. We talked about some of the things that keep us stifled and some of the things that keep us in this place. And we've been in this place for years. But I come today to let you know that it's time to break out those places. It's time to turn that hate into love. It's time to turn war into peace. It's time to turn things around, because man born of a woman is only of how many days? A few days, and his days are full of trouble, according to the scripture. Now, when we come back, we're going to talk about certain scenarios, and I want you to sit back, and those of you can share this broadcast, the www.fbrn.us Facebook. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and share this link, and just tell them we're talking about Ain't Nobody Got Time for This. Stay tuned. And we're back on the Smart Show, hosted by Pastor Nate on the Fishbowl Radio Network. And that was Ty Tribbett. Well done. That's what we want to hear. We're talking about time tonight. How are you managing your time? So at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, we want to hear the Father say, well done. You've used your time wisely. You did the right thing with your time. Well done. All right, and we're talking about ain't nobody got time for that. Now, those of you who are just tuning in, we were talking about how to manage your time, what we need to do, the negative energy if we have, we need to channel that and then turn that into something positive because time is short. We want to use our time, loving folks. We want to use our time, living a peaceful life because, time is short. So here we go. I got some scenarios here, and I don't know that if you can relate to some of these here or not, but sometimes we procrastinate. And that's one other thing I want to talk about too. What you can do today, don't put it off for tomorrow. Start as soon as you can. Now, I was a logistic adjunct professor at the local community college in Dallas. And just to make a long story short, it was final time, and then, doing finals, you assign like the biggest paper, and that counts the biggest part of your grade. So everybody had turned their information in on time, but this one particular student didn't. I reached out, I sent emails, I called them like, hey, what's going on? At least turn something in, put your name on something and just write a couple sentences so you can get some points instead of a zero. Something is better than nothing because this last assignment can affect your overall grade. But to make a long story short, she didn't turn it in. And I know we're busy and we got things to do. Some people who are in school, you have children, you have families and you have jobs. And that's why it's so important to manage our time and steward our time because we have to be really disciplined when we have a life hectic as such as that. But anyway, this particular student didn't turn the paper, they just pretty much ignore me. I reached out as much as I could. So when it was time to graduate, I think her grade or her GPA wasn't up to par. It didn't meet for a certain criteria. So like a couple months later, I received an email. She reached out to me saying she needs to resubmit that paper or do the paper so her score can come. I'm like, where they do that at? Who does that? Like when the class is over 2 months later, you call back and you say, I need to, make up this assignment. Well, the nice person I am, I contact my dean and I told him the situation, and he said, it's up to you. You can do it if you want to, but use your discretion. And he said that you might be questioned by the board as to why you did that. And I didn't want to go through all that. So to make a long story short, I just told the student no. Now, you might say, well, Pastor Nate, you're harsh for doing that. But do you realize when I begged, do you realize when I tried to reach out to her and I sent emails and I was ignored? I gave her an opportunity to get that right, but instead she ignored me. So what am I saying? Don't waste that time. She had time to get that paper in. Even if it was late, I still gave her time, but she chose not to take advantage of that. But at the end of the day, it was too late and she needed it for a certain, to get her score up, but then I couldn't do it. Right? So those of you who are procrastinating, don't procrastinate. She had time to do it. Now, here's a scripture that goes with that. Matthew 25 talks about the 10 virgins. 5 were foolish and 5 were wise. Don't be foolish. Don't be unprepared. Be prepared. The 5 foolish, they had their oils with them. But the 5 foolish didn't have oil with them, but the 5 wise had their oil with them. So when the bridegroom came, the 5 wise were able to go into the marriage. But the 5 foolish at that time, they went out to get oil. So when they came back, it was too late. The 5 wise had already gone into the marriage. The program had already started and the door was shut and they couldn't get in. Why? Because they procrastinated. They waited too late. My friends, don't wait too late. Do what you can do today. Don't put it off for tomorrow, because when you procrastinate, you gamble with your life, right? That's true. It happens all the time. Many of you say, well, gosh, it's too late. I should have done that when I thought about it. I should have done that last week. I should have changed that oil last week. I knew I should have done that. I waited too late. Now my motor's blown. It's part of life. We deal with it all the time when we procrastinate. And I know we have a lot of things in life going on, but we have to learn how to prioritize it and to manage our time wisely and do what's important. So that was important to that young lady. But, she realized that at the end of the day, don't wait too late to realize how important something is. And she couldn't get that grade. Now, she had to take the class over again and spend her money again because she compromised that opportunity. So don't mess up your opportunity. So what's my point? I told you my point, about the five foolish. Get your oil now. Don't wait too late. In both situations, they waited too late. We live in an era where people will say, oh, I got time. It's not due to next week. Start early to give yourself some cushion, right? Don't wait to turn into warranty scenario here. Even with our health, sometimes something might be wrong with your body and you might ignore it. And I know a lot of people, I know in my culture, a lot of people don't want to go to the doctor, from where I'm from in my family. They just kind of, stick it out. But some things you got to check on. Don't wait too late. They wait too late and they go to the doctor and get it checked out, and then eventually when it gets to a point where it's too bad and it's out of control, then sometimes we have a tendency to go then when we procrastinated before, and we should have gone when the problem first started, because you might have had an opportunity to nip it in the bud. You might have had an opportunity to treat it, and maybe you know some family members, some friends maybe who waited too late. I know in my personal life, a couple years ago, I lost a loved one because that loved one failed to go to the doctor early, and the doctor said this is something that could have been treated if you had come in time. So you see how we have to use our time, even with our health. Take advantage of that. I know you don't want to go to the doctor. I understand that, but just think about it in the long run. You could be prolonging your time if you take the time to take care of your health. So hopefully that's helping somebody right now. And if you're in that situation right now, go ahead and take care of that. This broadcast tonight is to help you tonight. It's not to bash you. It's not to bring any heat. It's not to bring any judgment. I know I'm speaking to a lot of people who find themselves in that situation, who don't manage their time well, who don't manage their time wisely, and then you find yourself worse off later on. Some things you can take care early, and you can prevent hardships in the long run. Now, we talked about those scenarios. We talked about the traffic ticket, right? We talked about the health situation, and we even talked about some people who are in school. I'm in school right now. I'm working on a doctorate degree, and there's no way you can procrastinate with that. When that first week is up and the new week start, I immediately start posting. I immediately start on my assignments, because at the end of the week, with everything going on with the ministry, with the music, with doing this, and with doing this on the weekend with the ministry, I don't have time. So I have to manage my time wisely and say, Monday I'm doing this, Tuesday I'm doing this, Wednesday I'm doing this. So I have to be really disciplined and have time schedules. Remember the time. I have to have a time schedule for everything. Pick up the kid from work and take him to from school and take him to work. There's so many things. My friend, take him to work and do different things like that. There's so many things that's going on, so I have to manage that time wisely, because if I wait till the end of the week to try to get everything in, then you stress yourself out, and then you find yourself just putting something together and not doing a good job. In fact, I can't be redoing classes because classes is too much money. I mean, each class is like $2,700, so I don't have time to waste. Like I say, ain't nobody got time for that, right? So we talked about that. We talked about how people don't manage their time wisely. Now, I got a solution. How do I use my time wisely for the last few minutes we have? And for those of you who are just turning in, you are listening to the Smart Show by Pastor Nate on the Fishbowl Radio Network in the Green Stream. And we're talking about ain't nobody got time for that. Yes, that's right. We don't have time for the foolishness. We don't have time for the drama. We don't have time to procrastinate. We don't have time to waste today. Time is precious. Time is of the essence. And again, I remind you, it waits on no man. So take advantage today. Now, you might say, well, how do I use my time? I got so much going on, or I don't feel like doing that. How do I get myself in the mood to manage my time, Pastor Nate? Like you said, it sounds good. It looks good on paper. It sounds good. But give me some steps that I need to take to manage this time. Well, I'm glad you asked, my friend. I am certainly glad you asked. I got something for you tonight. Here we go. Now, we're going to go to the scripture on this one. Proverbs 3:28. This is the Amplified version. It says, do not say to your neighbor, go and come back, and tomorrow I will give it when you have it with you. Don't tell your neighbor to go and come back today, especially if you have it with you now. Go ahead and take care of that now, because tomorrow is not promised to no man, right? If you have an opportunity, take advantage of the day. So when you go to bed, you can feel good about yourself. You can say, I spent a small fraction of my time helping somebody. Don't wait to do an act of kindness. You can do an act of kindness right now. You could pick up the phone and call somebody. It doesn't take money. Money doesn't solve all the problems. Sometimes it's just a kind word. Get that in before the 24-hour period is up. Just pick up the phone and call somebody and say how you doing today. Do you need anything today? It's something as simple as that. So the scripture tells us in Proverbs, don't wait till tomorrow what you can do today. There's a lot of things you can do today that don't cost you anything. So that's one way you can use your time wisely. Don't be selfish with your time, right? All right, and here's another one. Psalms 90:12. It says, teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. All right. And that's what I talked about earlier when I talked about the situation of the student, and then the situation of us, with the household, how they have to get up early in the morning. And the scripture says, teach us to number our days. In other words, teach us, God, how to manage our time. And if you don't know, ask God who gives you wisdom liberally. Teach us how to manage our time. Teach us how to prioritize this precious commodity, this precious thing of time that you've given us, that we so many times take for granted and don't realize how important it is until the end of somebody's life, right? I'm coming to sound the alarm right now that time is very important. It's very important. So teach us to number our days. Teach us to manage our time. I work and I'm in the field where everything is deadline driven. Y'all know if you're in logistics, if you're in supply chain management, you're dealing with different partners, you're dealing with different suppliers, you're dealing with different consignees, and you're dealing with different carriers. Everybody's got a time limit. You got to get this here by a certain time. You got to get these orders processed by a certain time. In fact, you can't do what you need to do until I do what I need to do, right? So if you have a deadline driven delivery or whatever, I need to make sure I get my stuff done in time enough so you can do what you need to do. And that's what it is about supply chain management. Everything is linked together. There are links, and everybody has to in order for them to complete what they need to do, you need to first complete what you need to do. And that's just the way it is. So I am trained to do everything on time. I am trained to be disciplined. I am trained to utilize time management and how to prioritize, because it depends on my job. And I can't play with that. So, all right. And some of us have said, when I was younger, my parents were too busy to come to any of my games and support school activities. I've heard many of people my age say that, like, when I was young, my parents were too busy, or my father worked all the time and he couldn't go to the games. He was providing for the family. And before you know it, parents, those of you who have children now, if you work so much, you really don't have time to support. Before you know it, those 18 years will have gone by, and you'd be like, what happened? Well, you were so busy and the kids were growing up. They're 18 now because you're so tied up into what you're doing. Now, while we want to help others, we can't help everybody. We're going to go into that right now. Sometimes you might have to tell your boss man, not today. I've worked last week. This weekend, I'm going to have to be off. I have to be with my kid. I'm going to have to go to his game. Or I have to be with my wife, or I have to be with my husband. We have to manage that time. We have to control our time. You're the CEO of your life, so you have to manage that, because nobody's going to take care of you but you. And you have to set the limits and tell people, I can't do that today. I can do it next week. Because if you keep saying yes, 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 from week after week, it's always going to be something next week. It's going to be something the week after. And some of you who are working all these hours, you know what I'm talking about. You're always saying yes, yes, yes. And then there are things in your personal life that you need to give attention to. But because of the American dollar, we tend to neglect them things. Again, money is not everything. Sometimes you have to take a cut pay, or lose a little money just to spend time with the people you really, really love. And on another point, those of you who help everybody, sometimes you can't help everybody all the time, because people will keep coming after you. If you look, if there's not one thing, it's another. Somebody needs this and somebody needs that today. You just might not need to answer your phone. Sometimes you just might have to say, no, not today. It's okay to tell others no when you've said yes for so much. That's not being selfish. Don't let people play that game with you and say you're selfish. You don't want to help anyone. It's like all the times I did, you're discounting that. But the moment I say I can't do it, now I'm selfish. Y'all know we got people like that. But no matter what they say, you have to manage your time right, because again, nobody's going to take care of you but you. And besides, in many instances, you've helped individuals, you've been there for them, and then when you need someone, then people have excuses all of a sudden. When you need somebody to come to your rescue, then now they got to do this. They don't have a problem telling you no. I'm going to let that marinate right there. So use that time wisely. You're not being mean when you say no. All right, here's another answer here. While you have time, become a good steward of your resources, your finances. You know, Matthew 25 talks about the men who had talent. Y'all remember that? The 5 men, the man who had 5 talents, he doubled his and, you know, made more. And the man who had the 2 talent, he did the right thing and created more. But the one who had the 1 talent, he didn't do anything with it. Y'all know how we is when we have a little bit. Sometimes we have a tendency of holding on to it. So I remember telling a family member about 25 years ago, I imagine, or so. We were talking, and she had like $20, you know, left over, you know, after she paid the bills. And I made a comment. I'm like, why don't you save that $20? And the response I got was, boy, that little bit of money, that money ain't gonna do nothing. Now, that's what she said 25 years ago. We talking about time. We talking about managing her time. That $20, if she had saved that 20, it's 25 years later. If she had saved that $20 25 years ago, and I just did the basic math, 25 years, and because they didn't use their money wisely, they have to work now. They're forced to work. And I know things happen down through the years, but many people just don't use their money wisely, and they just spend and spend. And when they get at an age where they can't work anymore, or, you know, it's hard for them to work, they have to try to work because the Social Security or whatever they get is not sufficient enough to cover everything. Why is that? Because that time was not used wisely. There was no money. There was no time to manage that money. So, and many of us have lost loved ones, and this is my last point right here. I'm just trying to tell us how to use that time wisely and how to manage that. Many of us have lost loved ones, and you wish you would have, you know, forgiven or maybe treated that loved one better. You know, I had a situation where a loved one passed away, and another family member didn't really treat the loved one as the person as he should, and then when they passed away, you know, they were hurt. You know, don't wait till it's too late. I mentioned that earlier. Get it right today. Make your wrongs right. You know, fix it. I know it's a pride swallowing thing, but let them know you're sorry, because when it's too late, you want to, you know, you don't wait till it's too late, because when it's all said and done, you want to have a clear conscience. My friends, I hope I helped you tonight. Our time has come to an end. It's up. It was my absolute pleasure talking with you tonight about ain't nobody got time for that. Now, I pray something was said that benefited your well-being. Now, if you have any questions, comments, concern, or want content discussed, I want you to hit that email button on the FBRN US webpage. Then you can email, or you can just simply email nsmart6355@aol.com. If you want to contact me on Facebook, hit that Facebook icon. And, you know, if you need any questions answered, or if you need further clarification, and just know again, you were listening to The Smart Show on the Fishbowl Radio Network in the Green Stream. Until next time, my friend, be at peace and not in pieces.